everybody. Today I'm making a video showing you how to do a faux finish with stuff you have around the house on a cheap glass vase. It may cost you hardly nothing. You may already have the stuff at your house where you don't have to buy anything at all. If you do have to buy the stuff, you can get it at the dollar store really cheap, but it ends up looking like something really nice. So today I'm doing one in particular that's going to be coastal themed, of course. Typically for this, you want to mix 2 parts baking soda, 1 part glue. If you want a finish that you can kind of paint on, you would want to go with the higher glue content. But I use this clear almost glue. I'm going to be stipling it, so dabbing it on, so you would just need a kitchen sponge, or I can't find my kitchen sponges. I don't remember where I put them, so I've got a couple other types of sponge things, and this is actually I think a scrubber, but anyway, it's the texture I was looking at that I thought would be good to use with this, so I'm going to be using that. If you want any tint to your mixture, you can just use food grade food coloring, which is another thing I can't find. It's out here somewhere and I haven't been able to locate it, so I'm going to improvise with some of my alcohol ink, but you can get the same result from using food coloring. So what you want to do is you want to get your cheap vase and you want to clean the outside of it with alcohol to make sure any oily residues are off of it. I'm going to be doing a vase that has 2 colors in it, that kind of has the ombre effect. And for this particular project, again, I would need the Elmer's clear glue. You would want some baking soda and just some cheap Dollar Tree acrylic paint in white. You don't need a whole lot of it. Mine's almost gone and I'm trying not to open up a new bottle of it unless I have to. And for this particular project, since it's a special project, I've gotten my peppercorn grinder and ground me some pepper. You'll see why when I get into it. I already put my baking soda in the cups. I have 2 cups going because, as I said, 1 cup's going to have some color in it. So what I'm going to do is actually set these baking sodas aside, because you actually want the glue first, because if you have something like acrylic paint, you want to, and the coloring for that matter, you want to mix it in before you add that baking soda. I'm just eyeballing this, but I think I already mentioned you want usually 2 parts baking soda, 1 part glue. And if that feels too thick for what you want, you can add more glue. It's kind of like, you know, cooking in the kitchen, you know. You can alter it as you go if it doesn't feel like it's what you want at the time. I'm not adding a lot because I'm not mixing up a lot. You just want to squirt. My glue's drying out because it's old. Just got a big glob here. Hang on a minute. That's gonna make a mess. See if that's any better. Woo. That was probably too much acrylic paint. So to compensate for my screw up, I'm going to add some more glue. Again, you want to use typically 1 part glue, 2 parts baking soda, and if you're adding in some acrylic paint, you just need a squirt of it. Popsicle sticks are cheap and awesome, which is what I'll be using. But you can improvise and use a wood skewer or whatever you have around the house if you want to not have to fool with washing it. But since this is washable, all you got to do is rinse off under hot water whatever it is that you dirty up, and it'll come right off. Which is why you don't want to put these in a dishwasher. You don't want to scrub them. They are a little water resistant, but if you want a permanent vase coating, if you end up making it and liking what you've done and you want it to be permanent, I would probably spray on some of the, I just went blank on what it's called, but it's the spray on polyacrylic, I think is what it's called. You can get it in shiny or flat, and you can spray on something like that to coat it where it does handle water better. Alright, so as I said, I want 1 part of this to be colored. So I'm putting my coloring and mixing it up before I mix it with the baking soda. And again, you would use food coloring. I've got no idea where my food coloring is, so I'm using my alcohol ink. Got some little kind of clumps in here because that bottom of the barrel of the alcohol, excuse me, the acrylic paint was getting a little gummy. So that's what I'm working on, trying to smooth those out. Alright, so now I'm going to add in my baking soda. See what kind of consistency that gives me. You do have about 20 minutes or so working time with this. Obviously it's glue, it's going to start setting up. This is the consistency I have now, and personally I want a little bit thicker, so I'm going to add a little more baking soda. Again, you can add, but you can't take away. So we're going to add some more baking soda, and that's about like I want it. This a little thicker as well. Oops, may have made that too thick. But if I did, I would just add more glue, but I think that's going to be fine. It's pretty cool when you add the baking soda, it kind of fluffs it up. It's kind of like frosting. Except I'm sure it doesn't taste anything like frosting. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I think I'm probably going to need a little bit more white, so I'm going to add a little bit more just to give myself safeguard there, because I'm using less of the blue than I am of the white. So I think I'm going to just mix up a little bit more white to be safe. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my pepper that I ground. Put that much in and see how it looks. I know that you're probably thinking, what in the world are you doing? You'll see. Okay. I'm actually going to put on some gloves so that I don't get mess everywhere, but you don't have to have gloves. There's nothing toxic about what you're messing with. It's just I tend to be messy, so. I've cleaned off my outside with the alcohol. I think I've already gone into that you need to do that. That's important. Trying to figure out if it's going to be easier to do the top or the bottom first. I think I'm just going to do the top. For me, it's do it however you want. You could stick the sponge directly into your cup or whatnot. But for me, it's going to be easier smearing it on. Said that like I was from New York. Smearing it on with the popsicle stick. It's thick enough it won't run off too bad, so I'm going to use this. I'm just going to staple it with this. You want to get the same consistency. You don't want it thicker on one side than the other. After I get into this, I don't think I have the color that I'm shooting for, so I'm going to add another drop or two, because as it dries it's going to lighten even more, so I want to get this a little darker to suit my taste. I know this looks like a hot mess at the moment, but it's going to turn out really cool. I said you have a 20-minute work window, but before you hit that, it will start getting to the point where as you're patting it with the sponge, it starts lifting up. So you don't have to do it super fast, but you don't want to dilly-dally around with it either, because it's going to end up not wanting to stick if you wait too long. I still don't know if that's dark enough for me. I don't think it is. We'll get it right eventually. Wipe this off one more time, and then whatever I end up with this time, we're just going to have to live with. Okay. I think I'll be happy with that. If not, oh well. This is something too, I think if you have kids or grandkids, something that you can do with them that's cheap. Like I said, you may already have what you need to do it laying around your house, but it's something that I've seen a lot of people poo-poo this. It's on Facebook, quite a few places where people do this. People come on and say, that's a bunch of crap. That doesn't work. And I had to try it for myself. And I found out that, yeah, it does work. But, you know, again, obviously it's glue. And even though you're mixing it with baking soda and letting it sit in the sun, it's not going to hold up. You can't put it in the dishwasher. You can't soak it. You know, it's a little bit water resistant. But like I said, if you really like what you made and you're worried about all of that, what you can do is you can spray it, which is what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to try spraying it with polyacrylic or something. We've got a lot of that around here. And I would want to use a matte polyacrylic, but if you wanted your vase to be shiny again, you do have that option by using something with a shine. I added a little bit more because I was starting to lift off a little bit in places. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't want it perfect. My mother always tried to drill into my head that things don't have to be perfectly symmetrical. Like, for instance, if you're doing a floral arrangement, you know, it doesn't have to be symmetrical. Nothing's perfect in nature like that, so you don't have to worry about it being I'm just going back over this in places where it's lifted off and whatnot. Which I think in my case, it doesn't matter if it's lifted off a little bit in spots. I'm gonna try this sponge. I think this would work better. I just don't want any big spots where it lifts off. A little one here and there is okay. And I know this looks really messy, but for what I'm doing, it won't matter. It's going to blend into the white. Sometimes too, if you feel like it's lifting off, you can try a little bit of a lighter touch. See if it'll stick any better. Because my glue is definitely starting to get tacky, which is why this is taking so long. I would have been done by now if I hadn't had to keep going over these spots. Which again, for the thing I have in mind may actually look good. But if you're wanting to totally cover something, obviously it's not ideal. So here we go with the white. Our white pepper mix. I'm just gonna dab it around. Sorry I keep lifting this up out of the camera's view. It's just hard to work from up there. And my glue's getting tacky enough that it's starting to lift up more than what I want. So I'm just trying to really hurry. So if you don't see anything, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just blotting this, stipling it on to the base. I'm going to try to add a little bit more glue. So I'm going to add a little bit more glue to see if that helps this not want to lift off as bad because it's been sitting for a few minutes. I like to use this sponge, so I'm gonna wipe some of this off. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit more blue. Wonder if it'll pour. Barely. It's hard to do this. Hang on to the vase the way you need to. You can see where that's been lifting off. I don't know why it's lifting off so bad. It doesn't normally do that. But as I said, for what I'm doing, I kind of want that. You'll see why when it's done, I guess, but typically that wouldn't be ideal. So anyway, what you want to do now is either sit it out in the sun until it completely dries, or blow dry it. The ideal way to do this is get something with a little height on it, prop it up over it. I'm just touching up. Yeah, see, that's just totally lifting up. Big old mess. Just trying to dry it, not to completely dry it, but to get it finished enough where you can get an idea of what it's going to look like. That's what I got so far. A picture of the finished dried product will be on the video at the end. Meanwhile, I do have another small vase that I did this morning in the same way that is finished. You can see how that turned out. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. These ideas are all over Facebook and all over the internet, so you can find all sorts of variations on this that are really cool. Most of them utilize things that you have around your house, like I said. But I will have the pictures at the end of the video. Let me know if you've got questions. I hope you have fun if you try it. Let me know, send me pictures if you do this, how yours turns out.